Of course, with Calypso History Month, we're ensuring that every time the show starts, you hear a classic. And it's time to talk about something that is going to be a classic of the future. Speaking about AI, joining us this morning in studio is Richard Solomon, no stranger to the Now Morning Show, to share with us humans in the age of AI and so much more. Welcome back, Richard.
Good morning. Thank you. Good to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you with us on the show this morning for quite a compelling conversation that we see, of course, trending throughout the world. And one of the first things we have to speak of course, is AI. What is it and how do you see it affecting us?
Well, it's about the machines and their ability to be intelligent and therefore to be able to either supplement and in some cases replace humans in some of the tasks that we ordinarily would do.
Definitely. I mean, it's something we can all identify with. We see thousands of layoffs happen on a daily basis, even being affected myself in this situation. AI is something that is continuing to make changes, but also is making some positive changes as well that we don't necessarily focus on. But where do you think it fits into this grand scheme of things when it comes to us as humanity, a labor force, a human force?
It's a good question. This is not new to us.
Yeah.
We have always created new technologies. The tractor is a good example of that. The motor car is a good example of that, or if you prefer the automobile. They're all examples of technologies that we've created that have in some ways replaced human effort. But what has happened in the meantime? As we've replaced human effort in one area, we create other opportunities in other areas. And so when people think implications on the surface, you will hear, well, people will lose their jobs. Yes. As a matter of fact, the projection says about 85 million people are set to lose their jobs in the next 3 to 4 years. And that sounds very frightening until you read the next paragraph that projects that about 92 million jobs will be created. So you see where this is going.
Exactly.
There is a reason to be concerned in the short term, but in the medium to long term, I suspect us as a species will do far better.
But how do you juxtapose that movement? So yes, you're in a situation where individuals can lose jobs. You're also in a situation where people can gain jobs if the systems don't take people forward. And this is maybe building capacity, one, or building that mental process so that I need to look forward as well, as opposed to remaining where I am, or keeping a system remaining where I am, because I'm thinking of education system, I'm thinking of work systems. If they don't change with the technology, where does that leave us?
So we're really asking two questions embedded in what you said. One is at the individual level. So if John McAllister, just a person, or Shanika James, just another person, says, for my life, where does this take me? Then at an individual level, I now have to say, okay, what are the skills that I now possess? And are some of those at risk? If I'm an accounts clerk, for example, that job is going to be at risk in the next few years because the machines will be able to move the data through the system. So at an individual level, that's the kind of thinking. And therefore, it immediately raises, does Mr. James need to look for new learning opportunities? Does Shanika need to learn new skills? So that's at the individual level. And they should, we all should. The other thing at the individual level is us being able to use the technology. We walk around with smartphones. Smartphones are only as smart as their users. So it is, do I have the ability to use this like a tool? Because that's what it is. Technology is not inherently bad or good. At the other level, we have to look at the nation. So in the Caribbean, a child born in the Caribbean has about a 55% chance of realizing their full potential, which immediately speaks to human development. So ordinarily, if you go back to Mr. James or the Shanika, you'd realize that, hey, this person is probably not going to get to their fullest potential. Why? Because we don't put enough resources and time and focus and align those resources in such a way that we develop people. Now, why is that important? Well, remember, humans are not generally out in the world charting their own course. That's how it looks, but that's not what's happening. People are following. So people will ask, well, what do you do? I go to school and somebody says, oh, you should be good at this, or I like so and so, and therefore we sort of follow that path. We're not charting a course, and therefore what it means, therefore, is that nationally, we have to gaze as a nation. We have to say, as a nation, where are we mopping up jobs? Where are the jobs? Where are the bulk of jobs, and which ones are going to go away? And they're usually down at this level. Lower cognitive jobs, manual jobs, lots of those. Go back to the tractor. We are not going to need as many people digging the dirt because the tractor will dig the dirt. If we use AI, we say we're not going to need as many people doing manual jobs and lower cognitive level jobs. And therefore, those skills are going to go away. Our development and education resources and systems need to point to higher level jobs. That's where we have to go. As a nation, we have to gaze into that future and be prepared to say, if we're going to spend money on GATE, for example, which we should, I have no challenges with it. We need to spend good money, though, because you can spend bad money. But if we're going to spend good money on GATE, where do we point it? That is the question. Where do we point it? Agriculture, for example, I can't help but go there. Do we need people there, as many as we think we do? Or are there machines that should be doing that?
Yeah.
So we help people to develop other skills that will contribute to our overall well-being and development as a nation.
I think that even speaks to that level of thinking about it, because I think when you say the word agriculture, what springs to mind?
Yeah.
I think sometimes people think about digging in the dirt even before thinking about tractor, as opposed to having different types of agriculture, different technologies that can be employed, and looking. So building that mind is part of the question that I'm asking about as well. Because if all I know is all I know, and until you are forced out of that comfort zone, you don't look for any other alternative.
Right.
So are there like basic parameters that would help scaffold that movement, even if not telling you exactly what to do? Because the exactly what to do, it shifts with a level of rapidity at this point in time.
And humans are not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
It actually goes against our base biology. This thing about, oh, it's always moving. Because always moving means, well, it could be dangerous, and therefore I could die, or I could lose my job, or whatever it is. Look at what just happened on the eastern seaboard with the port workers. They shut down all the ports on the eastern seaboard of the United States. And they said two things. We want more money, and robots don't have families.
Yeah.
Because they were concerned about just the bread and butter. And look at what the ports did. The ports said 62% over 5 years. 62% increase in their pay over 5 years. It means that the port was very concerned, but I am more so interested and concerned about what's going to happen over the next 5 years. Because a lot of those jobs are going to go away, people are going to retire, etc., and they will not be replaced. Because slowly, those very machines are going to come in. So it goes against our base biology, but it's something that we have to lean into. I am very excited about this because humans have a way of slowly adjusting.
Yeah.
And we will. We have to. I tell the story of my father, who's now passed on. He used to say when ATMs first became popular, no machine can count my money. Literally, you know, and I lived long enough and he lived long enough for me to hear him say when there were 3 people in the ATM booth, well, it's supposed to be fast service. You know, he's not complaining that it's not fast enough. So we do adjust. We will adjust. It takes some doing. The adjustment is not only about the skill, it's about the willingness to gaze into the unknown, which is what you're just talking about. This thing about, I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go, but I'm willing to lean in and embrace the possibility that this is going to end up somewhere that's going to be better than where we are today.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it as well, because as you would have mentioned a little bit earlier, it basically puts you in this space where you have to upskill.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and it's something that naturally we are averse to, even though we don't want to admit it, but it's something that is going to push us for the future. And that's the beauty of it, as we were discussing off air, AI is a tool.
It is.
Now, you mentioned at the national level as well, and one of the concerns that we see with AI on a global scale is where the legality comes into it and how that is managed. What are your views on that when it comes to effective management on a national or government level?
So I'll tell you what, That is not that question. The answer to that question is outside of my area of expertise. I was just at 2 conferences back to back. One in St. Martin, the Caribbean Shipping Association, another in Barbados, the Human Resource Association. We were talking about this very question. I don't know what the legality issues need to be. I don't know. That's not my area of expertise. Here's what I know. I'm glad we're having the conversation.
Yeah.
That's all we need, you know. We need enough people saying, hey, these are my concerns. What about my data? What is, if I put this kind of information in, where does it go? I mean, who has access to this? What does it mean for me? I don't know that any Caribbean territory, for example, has laws as of yet to govern the use or the deployment of this. I know some organizations are now having the conversations. We're helping some organizations have those conversations. But we're smart people. So we will take our concerns on the one hand. We will say, given these concerns, but given the benefits that this can derive to us, how do we structure the you can, you shouldn't, you will, in these cases you will, you should not in these cases, this is how we will store this. We will come up with those things, but I've heard people put that forward, and you didn't do that, but I've heard people put forward, well, we don't have laws to govern this. Listen, practice always goes first.
Yeah.
The legislation comes after, always.
Exactly.
And sometimes it takes a really long time. But nobody's going to stop this. It's impossible. I've asked organizational leaders, how many people have a framework, you know, at a conference? Raise their hand. Nobody has a framework. I've asked their staff, how many of you are using it? Everybody raises their hands.
Yes.
So that's going to happen, but we need to bring it to the table, have an open conversation, and begin to get the right people in the room to develop the framework and the legislative checks and balances to make sure that we are as safe for now, and we get as many benefits for now as we can. Yeah.
And I think it's very nice, because this also reminds me of something that Renee Cummings would have been speaking about. Sometimes we just blindly sort of be part of the process, so you want to get something, install it on this tool, the device, the phone.
Right.
So you click agree.
No one reads.
And you haven't gone through to possibly help to determine that there's this level of intentionality. The algorithm goes a little differently, so it starts to cater to you, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, you just put another brick in the wall.
Yeah.
So that level of intentionality, I appreciate the fact that you're talking about having the conversation, and then having those conversations and those questions, we can start to say, okay, well, we wanted to do this, we wanted to do that. Can we build things ourselves so that they will be kind of a little more customized to us, as opposed to having the biases of creators from elsewhere. But we want to thank you very much, Richard Solomon, Managing Director, Development Consulting Center Limited. The roles of humans in the age of AI. And I really think these are conversations that require more depth, more thing, and we're glad for the consistency. So
I do my best.
So we take a short break. We come back with so much more. What are you doing on the 26th of October? It's a Saturday. Well, Natasha has a conversation that will take you through that.
The whole island is cannibal.